It's government shutdown talk. You guys may have heard about this before. These things happen, I feel like, every year, but it must not be. But it's definitely happening right now.
Inch closer to a government shutdown. This morning, you said you might do a lot of layoffs. If DOGE is already reducing the federal workforce, why is it necessary to link more federal jobs cut to a shutdown?
Well, the Democrats want to shut it down, and so when you shut it down, you have to do layoffs. So we'd be laying off a lot of people that are going to be very affected, and the Democrats, they're going to be Democrats. As you know, this country, no country can afford to pay for illegal immigration, health care for everybody that comes into the country, and that's what they're insisting.
The president covered a couple things in his response to that question that I'm not sure if you heard it, but it was about their demands as far as this government shutdown and why it's potentially good. And I guess his whole idea was it's the Democrats. I mean, you have to go straight to the first talking point. And I get it. Both parties do that whenever these government shutdown battles happen. Honestly, it's politicking. They give their sides, they talk about what it is they want, and maybe that process isn't always put in front of folks' faces. It just turns into my team versus your team. Let's go back to the lies that the president was telling as far as healthcare plans, because this is their response.
President, undocumented immigrants.
We actually do have time for that.
They're not eligible for the health care subsidies that Democrats are demanding. So can you clarify, what are you talking about when you say Democrats want to protect their health care?
So when an illegal person comes in, a person who came into our country illegally, therefore breaking the law, and look, we all have big hearts. I have a bigger heart than you do. They're all breaking the law, and they're coming into our country. And we just, as a country, cannot afford to take care of millions of people who have broken the law coming in. We want them to come into our country, but we want them to come in legally. Now we have a strong border, very strong border, thanks to Christie and Tom Homan and the whole group. They've done an amazing job at the border. I mean, we had a border that was reckless. We had a border that was a disaster. They were coming in by the millions. I say 25 million people. You're saying less, but I say 25 million people came in illegally. And no system can take care of the health care of all of those people.
So, did you hear an answer to that question? Because she was asked and pointed out to him and asked him his response to the fact that undocumented immigrants aren't using our healthcare system. They can. It's illegal. But as usual, Republicans' answer is always, of course it's illegal. That's why they're doing it and they're breaking the law. But there's absolutely no record of it. They just say things. It's part of their whole lie when it comes to them trying to push that bill that they passed. But did you see how he didn't answer that question? He went on to talk about how, these are just illegals that come in. Again, we understand who we're talking about, but what you're lying about is that they have access to healthcare. You're lumping in a bunch of folks who are undocumented migrants to this country with American citizens who you're trying to strip their coverage of or the ability to have this subsidized level of it. And then he went to fear mongering about the numbers. They're flooding. You see them swarming across the border. They're going to kill you. That's always the same go-to argument that scares enough MAGA people to release their hold on any logic and reality and go straight back to fear and jumping back under the covers and worrying about that boogeyman that's under the bed they've never seen. He knows it, and he calls them stupid, and they go along with it anyway. Mike Johnson does it a lot more, boringly.
People, as you know, people who are here in the United States legally have never been eligible for the Obamacare subsidies, for Medicare, for Medicaid. So what exactly are you saying that they're trying to do when you talk about giving free health care to them?
I'm so glad you asked. Okay, so when we passed the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut, we had Medicaid reforms in the bill. You and I talked about it on the air. What we did was to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse. There were a lot of people on the program who were enrolled in the program who were never eligible to be there. Medicaid is intended for eligible U.S. citizens, not illegal aliens, not also U.S. citizens who are able-bodied workers like young men. So we passed the law. The president signed it into law. Democrats voted against it, of course, and it's been wildly successful. The CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, which is the neutral arbiter of all these things, released a report a few weeks ago, earlier this month, and they said, you know what? The bill has had its intended purpose. Premiums are coming down, listen, because 2.3 million ineligible enrollees have been kicked off of Medicaid, which helps to save the program, prop it up. And $185 billion has been saved already in fraud, waste, and abuse.
What you did was narrow the eligibility for certain people to get access to the ACA subsidies. What they want to do is undo the changes that Republicans made in that. But basically, wouldn't that only affect people who do have legal status, people who are refugee seekers here in the United States, asylum seekers
No,
here?
those are two totally different issues. So now they've created this as a new argument that they have as to why they should not keep the government open, but they're arguing a December policy debate for a September funding issue. The subsidies that you're talking about don't expire until the end of December.
No. Those are the subsidies for just everyday Americans. That's one thing that obviously has been the main premise of their argument. But you're saying they want to give free health care to people who are in the United States illegally.
That is exactly what the effect will be.
But when I looked at it, there's a little nuance because they want to undo changes that y'all made, narrowing who is eligible to get that. Those are people who are refugee seekers, asylum seekers. They're not technically people who are here illegally, just cross the border.
No, this is exactly what will happen. And Maxine Waters admitted, I think, accidentally today on the House steps, they want to give health care to everybody.
But Maxine Waters is not in charge. She's not the one. She didn't write this proposal.
She's one of the senior leaders in the House.
Bill that Democrats are
and everybody should Google it and read their counter proposal
But you see
yourself.
my point, right? You're making this argument that they want to just give health care to everyone who's here illegally. This is not for people who cross the border and don't have paperwork. These are people who have temporary protected status, right?
No, absolutely what will happen if that counter proposal was enacted is illegal aliens would be paid for. American taxpayers, hard-earned dollars, would be paying for benefits for illegal aliens again. We're not doing that.
But it's against federal law for people who are here illegally to get
Yes,
health
and that's
care.
why our reforms are so important to enforce all that. What the important thing to remember is what's happening
I didn't see that in the
tonight.
Democratic proposal that people who are here illegally
No,
should get health care.
because they don't have the level of specification that we had in our bill. It will unwind that.
Mike Johnson lies throughout that entire 3 minutes that he talked to Caitlin Collins, the entire time. Everything that he says is based in a lie. So once he starts lying, he continues on. And then when she tells him, I looked into these things that you're lying about, his only answer is, well, that's not the case. I'm Mike Johnson. I said so. I'm a Christian. I'm Moses. God told me I'm supposed to be here. That's not really how, accountability works. That's not how facts work. That's not how any of this stuff works. But that's how this party operates. Here's more. There was a correspondent on MSNBC that talked about what this would actually do. The more of the stripping of people's access to healthcare, just how bad it would look for normal folks. Check this out.
I'm hearing the concept of even premiums tripling.
Yeah, so fewer people on health insurance means that health insurance companies raise prices for everyone who's buying through these marketplaces that were created under the ACA or Obamacare. Look at what this means for a representative family. Take a 55-year-old couple making $85,000 a year. Their insurance bill at the moment is $7,225, thanks to the subsidies that we talked about. The subsidies go away. Their bill goes to $20,792. But then you have what I talked about a minute ago, that premiums just go up in general because fewer people are on insurance. So their premiums actually go to $24,535. You tell me how a couple making $85,000 can afford to pay $24,000 for their insurance. Hence, you see all those people dropping off of the insurance rolls.
I think it's pretty straightforward. Like, there needs to be an argument that's given to refute what we just heard. This guy leaves so many openings. Here's Donald Trump again, revealing very clearly that as he's talking about whose blame it should be for shutting down the government, it's actually something that he is going to use as both a threat and also a weapon.
They are shutting it down. We're not shutting it down. We don't want it to shut down because we have the greatest period of time ever. I told you, we have $17 trillion being invested. So the last person that wants it shut down is us. Now, with that being said, we can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like. And you all know Russell Vought. He's become very popular recently because he can trim the budget to a level that you couldn't do any other way. So they're taking a risk by having a shutdown because of the shutdown, we can do things medically and other ways, including benefits. We can cut large numbers of people out. We don't want to do that, but we don't want fraud, waste, and abuse. And, we're cutting that.
That's the approach that this president of the United States has for the people. You notice he has this opponent nature in his brain. He can't break it to the point he doesn't even realize how bad he sounds. His threat, so that if the Dems shut down the government, this is, of course, the day before it actually happened, was that he's going to cut vast people out of the government. He's going to fire all these folks. He's going to cut programs that they like. He's going to do things like cutting benefits. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. So His idea is that the things that he would do to harm American citizens, doesn't matter their political affiliation, to harm American citizens by doing even more damage once the government's shut down, is things that he's characterizing as being Democrats. Democrats want to protect normal humans and Americans in the country from his slashing and burning technique. And he's openly saying, if they let this government shut down, I'm going to slash and burn and hurt more Americans, things that they're looking to protect. How is that not an admission that he's totally against the United States of American citizens? I don't see how else it's seen. Check out the irony in JD Vance trying to appeal to what it is that would be lost once the government was shut down.
It's craziness, and people are going to suffer because of it. I mean, people who benefit from low-income food programs are going to suffer because of this. If you're flying today, I hope, of course, you arrive safely and on time, but you may not arrive on time because the TSA and the air traffic controllers are not getting paid today. Our military is not getting paid today. Starting today,
JD Vance, the vice president of this MAGA party, he's the guy who just said he's worried about low-income food programs and air traffic controllers getting paid. This is that same administration who said fraud, waste, and abuse about 187,000 times when Elon Musk came in, and he was cutting things like, low-income food programs, cancer research, air traffic controllers. He hopes that you're going to make it on your flight just safely, as air traffic controllers aren't getting paid. They didn't have anything to say when Donald Trump was blaming these sudden crashes in midair over DC and over other parts of the country and a lack of air traffic control normalcy because they were cutting so many things. But now they want to pitch to you that they give a damn about low-income food programs and air traffic controllers.
Because the overwhelming majority of the American public wants to keep the government open. I mean, it's not even close. Democrats and Republicans, independents across the country want the government funded because they want our military and our troops to be paid. They want TSA agents and Border Patrol to be paid. They want food assistance programs for women and children in impoverished communities to continue going out the door. All of that will come to an end if Democrats vote against this clean CR that Republicans are proposing. And might I just add, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are on the record multiple times in their past political lives stating that they too believe a government shutdown is bad.
She wants to go with that same argument. Well, I mean, previous years before, Chuck Schumer and them talked about how horrible it is to shut down the government. That's right. Politics are always played. But what they don't want people to think is that every situation is different. So, I mean, let's act like every situation is the same. Let's go with it. There's this guy. He looks a lot like the president currently. And since she's talking about previous comments and statements made about shutting down the government, she should listen to him too.
The interesting thing is in 25 years and 50 years and 100 years from now, when the government is, when they talk about the government shutdown, they're going to be talking about the president of the United States. Who was the president at that time? Mm-hmm. They're not going to be talking who the head of the House was, the head of the Senate, who's running things in Washington. They're going to be talking about during the Obama administration. Sure. It was a disaster. So guys like Boehner, who is in there working hard, and he's got one of the truly hard jobs of the world, they're not going to be really discussing him. They're going to be discussing one person. So I really think the pressure is on the president.
It's always someone else's fault. That is until he's in the position where it's then that guy's fault. That was during the Obama years. If you couldn't tell how old that video was. Elizabeth Hasselbeck was still on the panel on Fox and Friends. So last little part here, and in case you needed to see any more of the hypocrisy, every argument that they put forward is either not based in any reality or it's so hypocritical that they probably shouldn't make it if they would assume anyone would take a glance back at anything they've ever said and the reasons that they said it. Here's JD Vance. This is just from last year.
Why shouldn't we be trying to force this government shutdown fight to get something out of it that's good for the American people? Like, why have a government if it's not a functioning government?
Why have a government if it's not a functioning government? Currently, our government that's functioning under Donald Trump and that same JD Vance is destroying the economy. Many small businesses are talking about how they're suffering. Farmers every day. I could have a farmer story every day. I'm beginning to get tired of the farmers' stories because it's just so consistent. Is it functioning for them? Is it functioning for cancer research? Is it functioning for all these groups and entities that he's trying to lean on and say, I'm not going to fund you anymore? Is it working for any of those folks, or is it working for the folks that are paying him a million or two at a time for him to give away money to their businesses and corporations, for all those oligarchs that stand behind him? Is it working for folks who are dying and don't have access to healthcare already? It's not like our situation was great and they're trying to make it bad. It was bad and they're trying to make it worse.